Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dadsigner podcast. I'm Michael Smith, your host, and today I am joined by CJ Mendez. Hey, CJ, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, why don't you tell folks a little bit about who you are, where you are, what you do, and a bit about your family?
Yeah, so I'm an animator, specifically 2D animation. I was born and raised in California, but now I reside in South Texas with the wife of almost 16 years and four kids. I've been in the creative field for roughly 10 years, most of which was actually for graphic design. And then we transitioned to animation over the last 3 years. Like I said, I have four kids. They're 7, 4 years old, almost 5, 1 years old, almost 2, and 6 months old. And I co-own that animation studio called Noble Creative Collective with my business partner, Landon Lee. We basically do 2D animations that make complex ideas and products easier to understand and more engaging for people's audience. And we do a lot of work for like public health and education systems. Um, and yeah.
Nice. And the switch from graphic design to animation, how did you make that leap and what was required to learn? I'm assuming you use After Effects, but what was
Yeah.
required to jump over there?
So in at Sac State in our program, we were required to take at least one class that was animation based. So we knew animation, and my business partner had done um, animation a lot more prior to that because I think he worked for like News 10 in California and he was doing animation. So he was very familiar. But there was just a certain point where it was like everybody in the community and from graduating from the college and, in the Sacramento area was doing branding and graphic design. So it became one of those things where it just felt like everybody was doing it to an okay extent to where we're like, okay, well, what can we do different to really like corner our market? And there's some animators out there. There's some pretty good animators out there and some agencies who offer it. But in our opinion, nobody was just doing it like great, like specializing in it. So we're like, okay, let's give that a shot. Um, Plus, we both really love it. I mean, we're both really dorky guys. We love cartoons. We love video games. So it's like right up our alley. And I feel like it's a little bit more. What's the word I'm trying to say? Like, I guess I get more from it than I do from general graphic design or branding work like we used to do.
Yeah, it makes sense. I used to work with an animator, and the idea when we got hired around the same time, and the idea was I was going to design a lot of the graphics, and then he would animate them. Um, and he was actually really good at also creating the graphics, and so eventually it transitioned where I was working on other stuff, and he was just doing all the videos. Um, but are you guys doing both? Like, how much of your work is you're creating the net new designs and then animating it versus a company coming to you and saying, hey, we already have the look and feel, we just and the assets, we just need you to move them?
So I find when we work with other agencies, oftentimes they'll have somebody who has art files set up, and the worst we might have to do is either tell them how to layer it for us or just relayer it on our end. But when we have, I guess you can call them like direct clients that work directly with us, then we usually do everything from script or helping with the script to storyboarding to illustrating to animating and final product. So I guess it's kind of a split because we do a lot of work with other agencies who do need the animation help, but then we also have about 50% of our clients are just direct to us.
Yeah. And as far as transitions go, that element of animation has always wowed me, is really clever transitions.
Hmm.
What do you utilize to either be inspired or moving going from static design to motion? I think that element is maybe what sets places apart, is how they transition from scene to scene or thing to thing. How did you get there?
Man, to be honest, like I just look at people who do it better than me and I try to figure out like the same thing I tell anybody coming from college, anybody getting in the field, like find people who do it, who you think do it amazingly and try and dissect how they're doing it and why it's successful. So for me, that's like Reese Parker's like the man to me. Like that's like my favorite animator out there right now. And the way he transitions things is just so crazy creative. Like I know sometimes we have like hard cuts, like if it's going to change scenes. But one thing I learned from him is take an object that's in the scene and kind of utilize that to help the transition to the next scene. So something that was maybe it could be something as subtle as like a bowl on a table that like bounces up and then expands into a big ball, which turns into a globe that's talking about something. So I like to work with what we have in the scene and not try and like do too much or recreate anything or oftentimes we'll have to just like swipe the scene and it's kind of like not exciting. But I think one of the things is just really thinking what things in that scene can you utilize that makes sense to the next scene. Um, and how can you get there like in a really fun and creative way and an engaging way to keep the viewer interested and make them want to rewind and see like, oh, how'd that happen. So I just try and use what we have and then just really think about like of course pacing and stuff like that and make sure it makes sense. um, but yeah, you hit it right on the head. I think for animation, my favorite thing, almost more than the overall animation, is how people transition because it really is when you think scene to scene. It's like, okay, well, how do you get there? And that's one thing where we're even to this day, we're still like, okay, well, how can we make this transition better?
Mhm. Yeah. And as far as Noble Creatives goes, did you were you always in animation studio, or did you start that before you transitioned to animation? Is the first question. The second question is what is the division of work between you and your business partner?
So we started with of course, we started our business in the height of COVID, like everybody else does. But we started being like basically doing everything. So we did web design, we did branding, we did general design, we did animation, pretty much anything except for more advanced versions of those things. Like we don't do 3D animation just because neither of us are trained in it. And we didn't do like web development in the sense where it was like custom coded websites. We basically could like we can build websites, but it's not gonna blow your mind. It'll get your company a successful website. Um, so then we kind of uh, transitioned from there just because it was like excuse me. So we transitioned from that to animation after we weren't really fulfilled, I guess, with our work. It was like fun and it was paying the bills, but it was like are we are we enjoying this? So that's when we were kind of like, okay, let's really think about because this is our company. Like we got to a point where and I don't want this to sound like snooty, but we got to a point where we were working so much that we were making enough money to kind of pivot. And when I say enough money, I mean like just enough to like really be like, okay, let's do something else. So we did that. We grinded for like 2 years of doing stuff. We were just like, this pays the bills. We don't love it, but it works. And then we're like, okay, what do we want to do? And then we were like, okay, animation. I think we both really love it and we have a passion for it. So then we did that. And we made that change. And then to your next question, that's kind of where we discussed like who does what. And honestly, it's kind of been evolving. We always try to do 50-50 work. And even that means like if this animation is 3 minutes, maybe, and I'm working on it, maybe he has three 1 minute animations. Or if this 1 minute animation has a lot of character design and a lot of complex things, but these other ones, this longer one is mostly text based because we still get, animations that um, they're okay, but they're just like not, clients need specific things, so they're not going to be something you write home about. Then we just try to make sure we split that, or even if we have bigger animations, like right now, I like to do the illustration, and then I'll just pass that off to him to do animation, and then we'll kind of um, like support each other. So if I'm like 50 frames in and I'm like, I'm beat, he'll like, okay, let me take the last five. And then same thing with animation. If he's like, okay, I've been staring at this thing for 5 days, I'm like, okay, let me clean it up. So we just try and balance and we communicate and we utilize a Notion too to kind of look at our job, I guess whatever's on our plates. And that's an easy way for both of us to see what's on each other's plate at any given time. So we can, be like, are you okay? Are you drowning? You fine? Do you need me? So yeah, we just communicate a lot.
Yeah, that's cool. One of the projects that you mentioned was a really fun one for you was super spotty character. Uh,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that project and how it came to life.
So that was one of the projects we did for. So we partnered with another agency who worked with Super, and so they did. I think they did a lot of their. I want to say they did a lot of like the outside brand stuff and graphic design stuff, and then they came to us for animation, and that was probably one of the funnest projects we've ever had, just because they had um, a character that we could animate, like a set character that we can have just doing a bunch of things. So we really got to take him, give him like a personality, and make put him in all these scenarios and have him do all these silly things, like he's riding a roller coaster, he's walking with luggage, he's kicking a football, which we did for like a Super Bowl ad that was aired in, I think, Chicago, specifically Chicago, which I thought was super cool. And he was actually the first project we won any award for. So to me, he's got like a soft spot in my heart for, and we won it for character design, which I thought was our character animation, which I thought was really fun. So he's always going to hold a special spot in my heart.
Yeah, that's really cool. And to have I mean, I know it was a localized ad, but to have a Super Bowl ad in your portfolio is kind of a cool uh, claim to fame.
Yeah, it really is. It's like, we try to stay more humble, where we're like, I don't care about awards. I'd rather just be helpful with the work we do and have fun with the work we do. But every now and then you're like, I love football, so it's like that's cool to me. That's the equivalent to me if like Nintendo was like, hey, we have work for you. I would probably melt. Like
Yeah,
that would be like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? So to me it was cool. But more importantly, I'm just happy that, we were able to do something that allowed the client to get on such a big stage successfully.
yeah, for sure. And for kids, how has adding each new kid and running a business influenced each other?
Oh, man, I think so. I had my first kid when I worked for other agencies, which was a little easier because I got paid time off and all that good stuff that comes with it. The second kid, I feel bad. So my second born happened right after we started our business because, well, I was let go from my position during COVID, which was really hard, and my wife was, I think, 8 months pregnant. And so when he was born, I really didn't get to take time off. I had to work and, figure out how to keep food on the table and stuff like that. So that one was tough. I wish I could go back and, take the time. And I was able to help my wife because I was home, but I just wasn't able to spend the time with him that I wanted to. With my third child, my daughter, I got to take time off, which has been great. Same with the fourth. But I think it's just, I don't know, it's kind of a weird dynamic because everything's, well, in my life is like working from home at this point, which has been amazing because I can, at any given point, I could go out and see them and, spend 5, 10 minutes with them, get a break, which to me is huge because I don't know how other people's upbringing was, but parents were always working like from day to night. You see them for 2 hours and then you go to bed. So to me, it's like, I like the dynamic that we have now where we get to see them whenever we want. I mean, if your kids, my kids are homeschooled too, so that helps. So I get to see them whenever I want. I know other kids who go to school, but even then, there's no commute home to see them. There's no commute to work where you have to leave an hour early. So it's really nice to be able to see them. But the dynamic is interesting because the more you have, the more they need. So at any given moment, my wife could be like, can you step out for a second, please? And I'm like, okay, let me make sure I don't have meetings or, Landon's good, and then I'll step away. But the dynamic's interesting. I mean, they know not to like barge in here, but I often let them in here I mean, there's Legos and their toys everywhere. I like to give them space to come and be creative when they want to be, or just kind of, if they need space from their siblings, they can come in here and kind of enjoy themselves.
Yeah, that's great. I was actually saying to my wife this morning, we were just talking about what the day looks like. We got a daughter that has a soccer game that overlaps with the daughter that needs to go to gymnastics. And I've got a lunch with a friend, and I had a chiropractor appointment this morning. And I looked at her and I was like, I don't know how I did this or would do this if I had a 9 to 5 full time, in house or agency type job. Just right now. the schedules are very busy, and I'm very grateful that yeah, I have the opportunity to just bounce around, um, and be there for those things.
Yeah, it's really great because I feel like, I mean, I'm not gonna dive into my life's trauma, but I strive to be a parent that at times I wish I had as a
Mm.
kid. Like I've spent a lot of my time kind of isolated, but being creative, and I think that's kind of where it led me to where I am. But I want them to know, yeah, no, you could be weird with me too. Like, don't worry about like having to go to your room and draw like stick figure dinosaurs. I will also draw those with you. So it's nice to kind of be that person, be around and be that person for your kids when you kind of wish you had, that kind of support of like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna make this weird story up and draw this weird dinosaur and but now you have a partner to do it with, three partners because they're they're a little community. I swear they do everything. The oldest is like the ringleader. Luckily, he's a very good ringleader, so I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, it's really great. It really is great.
I recall a time where I was working at this company and my daughter was 2 maybe, and, we had launched a mascot, and I've been heavily involved in, like, developing it. I didn't draw it, but, like, developing it, and then our animator took the mascot and all the assets, and he made this video, and I remember sitting on the couch, like, playing this video for her, and it was like, you know, it's for this professional business, but it's a mascot, and it's an animation, it's really fun, and my daughter felt like it was a cartoon, right? Dad goes to work and makes cartoons. I'm like, well, I really don't. We send email. But
Yeah.
do you feel like with that animation, that playfulness, one, do you think that do you see them respond really fondly to it? And two, have you created anything together with them in regards to like animation stuff, which I know is a lot of time.
Yes, it is. And I mean, I could fill 3 days worth of things in one day with the kids, but yeah, so I'll say the first question I'll ask is yes, like especially my oldest, he loves drawing, so he's always wanting to see what I'm doing. Even like the more, I don't like to say boring work, but there is some animation that you're like, okay, the client just needs this, it's specific to them. So even that he wants to see, like, can I see it? But he really like I did there was one time last year when I was doing like just passion projects for fun because the more enticing animation projects weren't really coming in. So I'm like, all right, well, let me just do something for myself to kind of like have fun. And like I animated like Luke Skywalker on a speeder and his mouth was just like flapping in the wind. And that was just because like I was just like, I'm just gonna do this because I thought about it and I thought it would be funny. And so he got to kind of watch my process of how I draw it and how I do the specifics in illustration and even I mean the technical side of animation he doesn't care about. He just wants to see what it looks like when it's done. But yeah, so he's often wanting to see what did you animate, and I mean these aren't my best work, but I animated my first three kids gender reveals. So that's the thing I made like a thing. I just would do that just so I'm like I don't want to pop balloons or light things on fire or try to hit a baseball. I don't want to do that. So like let me just do it in a fun way. So we would have friends over. I would play it on the TV, and it's funny because I would actually have Landon. I would give him both endings, and I would just have him put the correct one in, so I wouldn't even know. So it'd be a
Oh, that's
surprise to
cool.
me. But they would like, let me watch it again. Let me watch it again. So, and then I feel bad, but my fourth kid, I tried to get it done, but we were swamped. And I still have it like 85% finished. And I'm like, one day I'll finish it. But, but yeah, they really love that kind of stuff. Um, there's even other projects we do. And again, to your point, time is just hard. Yeah, recently I've been trying to spend like Saturdays where they'll come in here and we have these like story ideas. We have like 50 story ideas, but there's one that kind of stuck. And I was like, maybe I'll illustrate these characters. And then he'll sit by my computer and we'll talk about like the most random events that happen. And I've been writing it. So I've been trying to make that a more consistent thing where it's the two oldest ones that come in here because the younger ones, they could care less.
Yeah.
But they come in and they kind of like, I'm like, okay, well, what do you think should happen now? And then we'll just start this story and I'll kind of fine tune it, but I'll let them basically creative direct. I'm like, which character? What are they doing? And I'm like, if they're like, he's jumping off a cliff, I'm like, well, what if he flew off a cliff? So I'm just kind of guiding it, but I'm letting him be creative. And I've been trying to figure out like how we can like document this so he could watch our process back, or we could put it on YouTube or something and give it to him so he can see us build this story, and then maybe he can one day inspire him to just do it himself. Or I want to do it with him forever, but at the same time, if I'm busy or something, I don't want him to just wait for me. So I think it'd be cool to kind of document, but I don't even, it's just like, when do I set it up? How do I edit it? It's like all these things that I'm like, who has the time for all this stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. And in some ways I wonder, because I feel a similar push at times to like try to do the best work on all the things. And what I found is for me, I've done a couple projects, even one recently with my girls, where I want to make like the coolest video and the process video because I want everyone online to see, look, I'm a dad that did this thing. And in the end, the thing that warms my heart the most is when my daughter goes, Dad, remember when we did this? I love that better. So we made a Guess Who, different Guess Who characters for our Guess Who set. And she said, remember, I like our characters way better than the original ones. And it's like, that's worth it. I don't really, I spent all this time making this video about us making this thing. And that could flop tomorrow and it doesn't make a difference. But her just being like, Dad, remember when we did this thing together? And I like it better than the one. And it's not great work, but
Yeah.
it's something we got to do together.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's like a creative's crutch sometimes, is like, well, I'll speak for me personally, is the same is I fully agree. It's like if I'm doing something, like do it. But there's a certain point where like this isn't you're not trying to impress $1 million client. You're trying to impress your kid, who is going to be impressed by basically the time you give him, and that's it. Like, or her. It's not about, he's not going to look at there and be like, well, that circle's a little off. He's going to be like, that character's cool. Like, let's make 5 other ones. So it's really true to just like really start doing stuff that, I don't know, like with a different mindset, at least with the kids, because it's like to your point, yeah, they're tough creative directors, but not for the reasons why we think. It's like they're just like, well, that character's cool or that character's not cool. It's like the best worst creative director, because you're like, can you give me more? And they're like, no, it's just I don't like it. Great, guess I'll
Yeah.
start over. But yeah, it's true, because I think that is a hindrance in me with me sometimes. It's like, well, how do I edit it? What's my transitions for the thing? Is there an intro and an outro? I'm like, they don't care. They're gonna watch this and laugh the whole time. They're not even gonna look at the intro or transition or any of that. They're just gonna want to see what we did and what it looks like in the end, and that's it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. It's so hard to remember that. There's
It
a
is. It really is.
there's a TV show on gosh, my girl's watching on Hulu, but it's called I Draw You Cook. And this kid will draw this picture, and they're usually like between 4 and 8 years old. And so they'll draw this picture of this plate of like food that they tell this story as they're drawing it. And these two chefs compete to have the kid like pick their dish as the winning dish based off this drawing. And the chefs are doing like crazy stuff with like blown sugar and making sushi and all these things, and they put it on this plate, and the kids just like, they're kids and they're being recorded, and they're just like, this tastes like crap, or like this this thing's the coolest thing ever, and the chef's like, I didn't even try there, but I tried really hard over here. And I love it because it's a good reminder for me, like, oh yeah, the kids like the interaction. They don't actually care
Yeah.
what's on the plate.
That's it's the same thing with like people, especially family. They're like, well, what do they want for Christmas, or what do they want for their birthday? I'm like, time. Seriously, they're gonna remember you going outside and playing chase more than they're gonna remember the toy that they lose in 3 days. And then when I store it, they're like, I love that toy. I'm like, you haven't seen it in 3 days, and they're like, but I love. It's like, just give them time. Like that's all kids really want, is like genuine time where there's no phones. You're just doing whatever activity they want. That's the love language, I think, for my kids specifically, is I'm learning it's not about the things. It's literally just about the time.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Two more questions before we go, and those are questions I ask every guest, and that is, what do you think has been your greatest parenting success? And then what has been your greatest either parenting learning or failure?
I think I'll start with probably the failure, because it's I mean, there's a million things that we feel bad about every day, right? But I think sometimes I need to work on like maybe this is a general failure, but I think I need to work on like patience and how unpresent I can be sometimes, especially at the end of my days. So like it's so easy to pull out the phone and doom scroll when my brain is fried. Like sometimes I work really late too, so the next day it's not any better. But in reality, they deserve me to be present. So I can, and I need to just remind myself that if I really want to doom scroll, I can do it when they go to bed. So I just need to like be here for the time that they're awake and then just kind of let technology go. Like nobody needs you within that 3 hour span that bad. And if they do, they'll probably call. It's really just like being patient and being present because sometimes I have to remind myself they're not 15, they're 7 and under. So then they don't know everything. So just kind of back up. So if a glass falls and breaks, like they didn't do it on purpose. They're just being kids. So I think I just need to, I think that's my biggest burden that I always hold is when I'm laying in bed at the end of the night, like I wish I would have, just been a little bit better about like this thing that happened or that thing that happened, or I wish I wasn't texting or responding to a client email. I wish I was just like watching whatever they wanted to watch. So I think that's the biggest thing that I'm constantly working on. But with all that said, I think the thing I'm most proud of is I give them like a safe space to be their true weirdo selves. And I think that's kind of a big thing for me because I didn't have that growing up. I couldn't be like this silly kid that I really wanted to be. And I refuse not to let them be silly. So, and I also fully dive in. So if they're like, I'm going to be this monster with pants on my head. I'm like, well, let me go get a pair of pants. I'm putting it on my head, and I'm also a monster with pants on my head. So I just, that's probably my proudest things is I give them space to really be who they want, but I also so I can kind of let them be who they want and show them at the same time that you can still work hard towards things, but you don't have to sacrifice who you are for that. Like you can be who you want to be and also succeed. So I think that's what I'm most proud of.
Nice. Do you allow that silliness to come out? I know I said last question. Do you allow that silliness to come out with your clients too?
I try. Yeah, there's certain client if that's why I don't like text communication because I feel like you can almost never show your personality. And I also feel like it's so easy to read something the wrong way just depending on what mood you're in. So to me, I'm like, please just give me a meeting. And I feel like I can get, any client on any side if they could just see like, oh yeah, like this is I just want this to be silly and approachable and all this stuff. Um, so yeah, I think I try, like we're working on an animation right now for a school, like an initiative of sorts. And I'm getting to put my personality into the illustrations, which is fun because I'm like, it's sort of there's some dark areas and some light areas because it is kind of about helping kids, but you still get to put that personality in. And I think that's another reason why I'm drawn to like animation is because there's really a lot of room to kind of have a style and have personality. So I sometimes, yeah, I think, and sometimes I mean, clients are gonna client, and you can only do they want a text-based animation, and there's only so much you can do there. But yeah, I think so. I think I get to, and most of my clients know me for, I'm not an English author. So when you're getting my emails, there might be some errors, but you're going to know who I am. It's just because I function better on meetings and face-to-face conversations.
Yeah, I was talking to this guy the other day, and he said he has a British accent, and he said, "I just wish I could get more meetings with people versus like email communication." He's like, "I just feel like I get a pass and sound smarter when I can use my voice." And I was like,
Yeah.
it was so self-demeaning, but at the same time, I was like, yeah, especially if you're in a US market, people look at that British accent and they're like, oh man, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, I also feel like so much gets lost in email communication, or you can't really communicate at all. And I also feel like certain times, especially clients that are busy, they're not going to read the 5 paragraph email. Like it takes me 5 to 15 minutes to just tell you what I'm doing and what the plan is, and then it's easier to kind of communicate that. So I fully agree. And as much as I don't even like meetings, I feel like the same thing. Like I feel like more creatives would probably get the work they're going for if they could get a meeting. It's just a matter of like getting in that door, you know.
Yeah, that's great. Well, some bonus questions after the final questions, but if folks want to find you online or your animation online, where can they do?
Would go to our website, noblecreative.co, no M at the end. And then I'm trying to ramp up our LinkedIn and post more there. Um, I mean, our Instagram's kind of dead, but it's just, when do I fit in social media? I'm trying to like balance it all. So I would say our website for sure has a lot of our work. And I'm trying to be more active on LinkedIn and post our reels and our work and in progress stuff. So I think those would be the best two spots.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, CJ, and we'll
Yeah,
talk soon.
thanks.